Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a repeat guest in the house today talking about a new topic. I got Deanna Russo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, how are you doing today, Deanna?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Gillian.
So, before we get stuck in, can you just go ahead and tell everybody who you are and what you do, and then we'll start chatting.
You got it. So, my name is Deanna Russo, and I help people do the LinkedIn platform the right way. I said that in a very crazy, obscure way, but basically, I bring my triangle strategy to the people of LinkedIn to help you learn how to use this platform. There you go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love that you focus on engagement and that's kind of one of, you consider it your superpower is
Yeah.
engagement, having, because it's not enough to just like have a profile. It's like, if nobody sees it, what good is it? I think I stole that quote from you actually. So, okay. So here's our topic today, which is variety as the spice of life for staying relevant. And it kind of backs on to a live I did prior with Ryan Anderson about stop the snoring and don't be boring type of thing. And it's true that this is such an important topic. So Deanna, let's kind of go back and say why is this important to you? What why was this kind of like, we must talk about this, Gillian? It's great.
I think that this was inspired by I decided earlier this year to do more video to spice up my feed because the
Mm.
text posts I've been doing, while I really enjoy writing and I think that the writing is okay, it's pretty good. I think that video just throws another element into it. And when you actually go through someone's feed and see multiple different ways to communicate, then it's not the same old thing over and over and over again. I mean, honestly, we could compare this to lunch. If I gave my kids peanut butter and jelly every single lunch for a long time, they would get sick of it. I grew up on bologna sandwiches. You give me a bologna sandwich right now, Gillian, and I have to back out. My kids and my husband like torment me sometimes. Look, it's bologna. Like I hate bologna. So I mean, you have to like spice things up or else people get bored. You got to stay relevant to what people want to see. And if that means coming out of your comfort zone and doing something that you don't usually do, then do it.
I love that. I love that. And I so agree, because I think we also need to cater to different people's learning styles. And some people, they love a text post, they read it, it's like, oh, it's their happy place. Other people are like, okay, text too long, don't read. Where's the video version, or where's the slider? Because I'm a clicking kind of person. I like to just click along, click along. I want the power. So I think that we have to recognize that you could actually say the same thing in many different ways, with the
Yeah.
graphic, with a video, with your text, with your newsletters. So, okay. So, Deanna, step back and tell us about, you want to start doing more video. What have you been doing primarily up to now? And if video's one thing, what else would you add as your variety spice?
Well, going back to 2018, video is how I started here on LinkedIn. So I was doing videos twice a week and I kept that up for over a year. And then I got into more of the text. I started doing different things. And for the majority of 2021 and 2022, I really wasn't doing a lot of video. Maybe I would come up every now and then, but it wasn't a consistent thing. So, what I realized at the start of this year was let's do it on a consistent basis. Let's get back to I'm going to do once a week, not twice a week, but at least it's consistent.
Mm.
So yes, text posts, image posts. That's a lot of what people have been used to seeing from me. I started a newsletter. Jeff Young, shout out to Jeff Young, our friend, because he encouraged me to start a LinkedIn newsletter. I started it in January of 2022. And you know what, Gillian? I have a lot of subscribers, over 8,000 subscribers of my newsletter. So I always give, whatever say newsletter, I always give Jeff Young a shout out, because it's basically, he encouraged me to show up in a different way than what I was showing up before. And this video is the same way. You got to keep showing up in different ways. I had someone send me a message. Was it last week? No, it was 2 weeks ago. Sent me a message that said, "Oh my goodness, that video was awesome. Keep doing videos." So I'm like, huh. So someone sees it. That's good.
That's great. That's great. And I have to give a shout out for your newsletter because your newsletter has a lot of variety. Like some people do newsletters and they're just text, which, maybe they pepper it with a few Bitmoji, or sorry, not Bitmojis, but emojis or something like that. But it's hard to read nowadays, just pure text. It is, at least for me. I like visuals, and I
Right.
noticed that you like to put GIFs in your
I do.
newsletters and
I do.
memes and funny pictures, and so it's
Yep.
kind of like I read a little bit and then I get a break, and it's like
Yes.
it's like you've left like little breadcrumbs so that I
Yep.
continue reading your newsletter.
Yep. And I think visuals are important. I think if you just stick to text all the time, you're missing out on a whole different element that you can use to spice it up. And that's the only place where I'm putting that type of stuff is in my newsletter. So if people are subscribing to it, that's even better that they can learn and then, like you said, get a break from the text
Yeah,
and spice it up a little. There we
I
go,
love
spice it
that.
up.
I love that. So you used to do audio events. And so
Yes.
that's, and I know what you mean. Like you do something every single week. And it's like, sometimes it's hard to like have time. Well, how then do if I'm doing a consistent thing weekly, it is very challenging to now say, well, I want to have a variety of content. So now that you're not doing audio anymore, and I'm sure you're still being guests on people's shows, but you're not running your own audio events,
Right.
you have like a little bit more free time to be diverse. So,
Yeah.
Deanna, how are you setting your goals with your diversity of content without getting into overwhelm? Like, oh, it's going to be like 80 hours to do all this.
Yeah, I think that I have made the time and prioritized where I want to be and what content is the most important to put out there. I think that's the most important thing is when you have 24 hours in a day, and you're not calendaring certain things, then you lose track of what your priorities are. And so putting it on the calendar is important, making sure that you're holding yourself accountable to what you want to do, and the goals that you want to set in regards to content are just as important as the goals that you're setting for your business if you're a business owner. So you've just got to prioritize and see what's the most important thing. And when I came to the end of the road for the audio rooms, there in January, Jillian, there was a nice relief. There was a nice, because
Mm,
those audio rooms are a lot of work to do it on a weekly basis for over a year. They're a lot of work. I give everybody credit for doing it, but I'm like, now I just need a break. I just
mm.
need a break, and I need to just guest on other people's to see to see give myself a break. That's all. That's basically
I
what it
love it.
was.
I love it. And it's a wonderful way to stay relevant.
Are you
So let
there?
me just hop over for a second, and not a second, but let's hop over and see our comments. So we have the man of the hour who double tags us from YouTube and from LinkedIn. So Jeff says, ready to listen to the Spice Girls. I love that he calls us the Spice Girls. That's so fun. That's so fun. Thank you, Jeff, for being here. And thank you for just being you. We have Christopher Johnson's greeting from Metropolitan Detroit. So, our common friend, Christopher Johnson, woohoo, thank you for being here. We have Niraj, the fabulous Deanna Russo. Best wishes, you rock, buddy, across the water. Isn't that nice? And it's so nice. I'm going to see him soon, so I'm not going to make you too jealous with that one, Deanna. But he is just such a lovely man. We have Mary Wu. Are we spicy today? Yes, we should be bringing out the hot. I don't know what you have for
The hot
spicy.
sauce, the
Hot
hot sauce, the
sauce.
hot spices. I have a whole like shelf in my pantry of all the spices.
I love
Mhm.
it. I love it. And Lois says, "Hi everyone. Greetings from cool, silvery South Wales." Ooh, that sounds nice today.
Aw.
It's already warming up in Las Vegas, so actually it's going to be kind of fun to go and experience some weather in the UK. John says, "Our common buddy, John Asperian, I see you both. Intriguing talk title. I'm cooking with a lot of spice right now, by the way." Ooh, lamb curry. So,
Nice.
I love that.
Nice.
I love that. So, Deanna, I want to ask you, how do you stay organized though? Like I know that like you set your priorities is good, but okay, you say, "Okay, I want to do if I said I want to do polls and I want to do videos and I want to do this and how can I organize myself? Do you what do you do? Do you use a content calendar? Do you just use an Excel spreadsheet? Do you
I don't. I
poster
don't
board?
use a content calendar, but that doesn't mean that it's not the right fit for that person. My best advice, Jillian, is to find what works best for you.
Mm,
Because if someone were to tell me you must do this, I don't know if I do it.
mm,
So, excuse me, it's about finding what's the best fit for you and your ultimate goals to create that content. And when I feel inspiration, I post. So I know that there are certain things that I need to be posting, and there's certain types of content and format of content that I want to put out there. And then the messages have to go in sync with that too.
mm.
So I guess you couldn't say I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I put it out there. So I get it out. It's just a matter of making sure I know what's the most important. And video is a big priority for me. I want to get back on that video trend. So I'm doing it on a weekly basis. And you know what, Jillian, I want to make sure I mention this, that there are times where my pieces of content out there, the views and the impressions, they're not astronomical. They're
Mm,
not. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. That
mm.
doesn't mean I'm going to put the brakes on. It just means you just keep going. There are times where things fall flat and they're not like, that's okay. But consistency is really just as important as everything else that you're doing on LinkedIn. You got to consistently keep showing up.
Mm.
And it's like I was going to say, if I'm talking about my triangle, it's profile, engagement, and content. And if I was making that triangle into a square, consistency would be a big part of it. So
Mm.
even if you fall off of that train, even if you fall off of the track and you're not getting what your weekly goal is, get back on, because you're still gonna, it's not the end of the world if you miss one. Just stay consistent with it.
I love that. And that's very encouraging because I think sometimes people, I think they sometimes set goals that are a little bit too lofty and then they can't keep up and then they fail and then they don't do anything. And it's kind of like dieting. It's like you decide, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds, in 3 weeks or something like that. And it's like, well, that's pretty unrealistic. And so then you starve yourself and you don't lose the weight after 2 weeks. And then you're just like, okay, I give up. And then you go out and eat a whole cake. Just gain 5 more pounds. And it can be the same thing with our content that it's like,
Yep.
so I like having those baby step goals. And like you
Yes.
said, you used to do video 2 times a week.
Yep.
I'm very proud of you that you said, I'm going to start with once a week.
Yep.
And forgive myself if I have a week where I don't do one.
It's
And
okay.
and maybe if you are an inspired creator, you might say, you know what? Here I am picking my, kid up at gymnastics. I just had this talk with this woman and this inspired me to standing here in the gym with all these kids screaming to make a video. And you post it and you're just like, okay, wasn't quite planned, but
Yeah.
sometimes those unplanned pieces of content do so much better.
Yes. And I think what it comes down to is relating to people.
Mm,
I mean, that in and of itself is super important. If what you're saying is not relating to people, then that's where the disconnect is.
mm,
So I would probably, exactly what you said would be something that I would do. I would have a conversation with another mom at gymnastics, at lacrosse, at whatever it is, and then be inspired to post on LinkedIn because it can relate to people. Because in the end, no matter what anybody tells you, LinkedIn is not just B2B. It's not. It is B2H. We are humans. We are business to human. We're H to H. We're humans talking to humans. And so that needs to be emphasized, you're talking to other people. And if other people can relate to you, even better. That's awesome. So it's be relatable. And regardless of what you're putting out there or how you're doing the content, that's the ultimate, is for people to be able to relate to you.
I love that. That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Okay, so a few more comments. We have Elizabeth Walker. Hello. So
Hi, Elizabeth.
she's joining us today. We have Annette Richmond. Hey there, girlfriends. Actually, Annette, I got to give Annette a shout out because she actually introduced us. And if it wasn't for Annette, we wouldn't know each other. She invited us, I think, way back when on Clubhouse to come and do a room with her. So thank you, Annette. That was fun.
Annette, you're awesome.
And that's what people do on this platform. We connect people with other people. So Rochelle says, glad to be here with you ladies. Such awesome advice. Thank you for being here today. Woo-hoo-hoo. And then we have Marcia. Hello, Gillian and Deanna. Absolutely come out of your comfort zone. I learned by doing. I had a session with Toni McClellan. I love her and her fairy dust yesterday. And she absolutely worked with my learning style, which is learning by doing visually. So that's brilliant. And I think that's a really good key point, is that we have to figure out what's our learning style, not just our avatar or target market or ideal client. You have to think, well, also your ideal style is a learning style is probably how you best teach. So a lot of times, I teach with a graphic. I'll fuss with a graphic till the end of time because visuals are so important to me. So I think that can help.
I teach by communicating, and communication can be whether it's people seeing your personality in video or whether you're writing it, or a good combination of both. That's what people get from me. You have to find what works for you. And so that not everybody is going to be able to relate to Deanna on video. Maybe other people will be able to relate to Deanna in text and the writing. And maybe it's a combination of both. So it's doing what you feel the most comfortable with. So when I set this video goal, I'm like, I can do this. I can do once a week. I don't know what my video is going to be this week yet, Gillian. It'll surprise. I don't know what it's going to be.
Maybe this is it. This is it. We'll just send you a clip and then you can post this and you're done for the week.
That would be awesome.
I love it. I love it. So Deanna, is there any particular kind of content that you don't like doing and have to force yourself, or do you just not play that game?
I would say if there's one piece of content that you will not see a lot of from me, it is those carousels. It is, I've tried it. There's a couple of them that you'll see if you go through and look. There's 2 of them on my LinkedIn profile, but I just don't have the patience. I would rather write. I would rather communicate by writing than putting in the graphics. So it's just not my thing.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And then do you ever repurpose your content? Like, would you take your video and then say, okay, well, that was, I really liked what I said in that video. Maybe I'll turn it into an article, or do you do anything like that?
I should more, because I've been creating content now since 2018. And I'm fairly certain there's 6 years worth of content sitting there. So I don't repurpose it as much as I should. But one thing I do is I repurpose my LinkedIn content sometimes for my email blasts that go out. I have a much smaller audience. By the way, if anybody is interested who is watching this live, I'm getting my email. It only comes to your inbox twice a week. And it's never spammy. It's all, but that's one thing I do is Not everybody who's on LinkedIn remembers that, or is subscribing to my email remembers that I wrote this on LinkedIn. So I that's one way I do it.
What kind of content is it that you actually put in your newsletter, your email
In
blast?
the email blast, it's pretty much the same stuff that they're getting from me on LinkedIn. They're getting LinkedIn knowledge. They're getting LinkedIn tidbits.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the nuts and bolts.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Mhm.
And what was I wanted to ask you something about? You talked about polls. So, in your opinion, where are polls at these days? Because I don't see very many of them, and maybe that means it's a good time to do a poll because we
It's
don't
a
see
good
many.
thing if you're not seeing it, because there was a time on LinkedIn where every second or every other post was a poll. And I'm sure if Jeff and Niraj are still here and Net, they probably remember those days where our feeds were full of silly polls because LinkedIn gives those a priority. I say use the polls where it makes the most sense. And what I mean by that is strategic. If there is a question that you want to ask your audience, poof, you have a poll. If you want to just like ask what you're having for lunch today, I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, we go back to the human side, I guess, but I find the useful polls are the best polls. If I'm going to run a poll, I have done multiple ones on what's the first thing you look at when you come to a LinkedIn profile of someone that you don't know. What's the first thing you look at? Do you look at the profile picture? Do you look at the headline? Do you look at the about section? That's providing information. It's pulling out information from people. So I find that when you do a poll, make sure that it's useful. Make sure that you have an end goal. And actually, that's really funny because I did a poll last week. I think it was last week. All these days keep getting mixed together. But my last poll, I got comments saying, I can't wait to see what you use with this data. I'm like, then maybe I should use something with the data. But that's really the end goal, is to make sure that you're going to get something out of it.
I love that. And, it's funny. You just reminded me, I haven't done a poll in forever. And I used to use polls. I never asked, like, what kind of ice cream do you want? Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry? I just thought those were dumb. But,
Yeah.
anyways, I used to do market research with my polls and market research for me. So, like, one of the things was I asked people, how do you like learning about lives? Do you like getting invited, seeing it in the activity feed, all those different things? And then what I would do is whenever I did a poll, I would ask a question, and then afterwards I would take the comments that people issued, I'd screenshot them, and then I'd do a slider and I'd say,
Nice.
I ran a poll about this. Here was the result. And here is sort of some of the top comments. And it's like, those did so well because people liked seeing that they were, contributing to the bucket of information.
Yeah.
I think LinkedIn probably saw my posts and they made that contributing articles thing based on my polls because people like to see their contributions.
Yeah. See, isn't that awesome? I love it when LinkedIn's watching.
You just never know when they're going to
You
steal
never know.
something.
You never know.
Speaking of those articles, is that part of your spice, doing those, article contributions for
Oh, okay.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, I haven't done them in a while. But I still feel there's some value from contributing to them because um, you're showing up in a total different room than where you usually show up. So you're
Right.
reaching a total new audience. So I think there's some value. There's definitely value to find what your niche is and then show your insights.
Mm,
But I always say that if you're going to contribute to those articles, it would be 2 insights and do at least 2 or 3 of the articles.
mm.
Because if you just do one here or there, it's kind of scattered, and you want to be consistent. So I
Agreed.
feel like 2 insights that are valuable, and you don't want to just live a few words. Actually, LinkedIn won't let you just use a few words.
No.
You have to write a few sentences on what your take is.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I actually fell off the radar with those. I lost my badge because I was so busy doing other
Yeah, I
stuff.
did too.
And I lost my badges. And then I went, well, I'm not going to do them until I'm ready to commit. But here was the insight that I had was the next time I kind of start doing those again, I'm going to get organized and I am going to copy and paste my answers back to me. So I'll write my answers out of my head, but then I'm going to take my answers and I'm going to put them in a document and use that information because what I'm answering is usually really, really important. And I could turn
Yeah.
into a different form of content. And since it's my advice, I think that would be good. And maybe I could even see, oh, I answered, 6 questions on live streaming. Maybe I'll have here's 10 quick tips on live streaming and turn it into a slider or something like that. So I think sometimes we need to not necessarily work harder, but work smarter.
Yes, repurpose this stuff. I don't know too many people that are repurposing what they're contributing in those articles. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
fantastic.
now speaking of, have you ever like you've done a lot of content over the years. Have you
Mhm.
ever just kind of like blast from the past? It's like, oh, here's something I posted, 3 years ago and it's still relevant. Will you go ahead and repost that?
I have retooled, I have reworked it, retooled it before. Yes. Especially in my email blasts.
Hmm.
That's where people might see a LinkedIn post that I wrote like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they'll get it in a link, and it's still valuable. My open rate on my LinkedIn, my email blast is like 50% of like people that get them, they're opening them. So I'm like, at least it's being reworked for something. But yeah, on the LinkedIn side, I'm not repurposing as much as I probably could, but the email blast is where I'm doing that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay. Well,
that's
that's
cool. That's
cool.
cool.
But you're right, though. I've done a lot of content in the last 5 or 6 years. There's a lot there.
And sometimes it's depressing because it feels it gets lost.
Yes. Yes, but when LinkedIn, I think it was 2 years ago now, when they segmented the posts and like they have images, they have comments, they have videos. Oh my God, I was so happy. I remember I did a video and I'm like, look at this. Because that was like huge. That was so valuable to see all of the stuff instead of having to scroll all the way down. Now I can easily find videos that I did. If you really want to see embarrassing Deanna Russo videos, go back and scroll through all of her videos and see how bad I was at the beginning of doing videos. And actually, I told somebody else this. He's considering doing videos. And I said, if you really want inspiration, go look for the real bad ones that I did because everyone can do a bad video. It's fine. It's fine.
And I applaud you for not taking those off because
No.
we need to have, where we've started and to where we are today and let
Yes.
people see that progression because that's the best inspiration that we can give people that it's like you don't do this overnight. There's no Disneyland fast pass.
No.
You have to
No. It
crawl
takes some
before you
time.
walk.
It takes some time. You have to be consistent in it. You got to keep just getting back on. It's just like riding a bike. You
Mm,
just got to keep getting back on when you fall off and just
yep.
keep going at it over and
Yep.
over again. And that's where you're going to find your gold and where you feel the most comfortable.
I agree. I agree. So we've come to the end of our 30 minutes. And so is there just like a final takeaway you'd like to leave with everybody with today?
I think that when we talked about this topic, I got excited about it because you just have to find what works for you, but then what brings you out of that comfort zone too. So, whereas videos are not my go to, it takes me out of the comfort zone and it brings me back to something that I did before. So that's the reason why I'm incorporating more videos into my content now. So try and figure out what are people seeing from me all the time and what can I do differently? What can I do to spice this up? Because nobody likes bland food. So spice it up.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being here, Deanna, and sharing your wise advice. And thank you to everybody who has joined us live or on the replay or later on the podcast. So appreciate y'all being here, and reach out to either one of us if you have some more questions about making life spicy. Okay. We'll see you all next time, everybody. Bye-bye.